This episode of RP MMO Radio is brought to you by all our amazing and generous Patreon donors. Visit us at patreon.com/RPMMO Radio to help support the show. It is also brought to you by
Crapco is proud to bring you the Lazy Lexa. With the new amazing item, you can do all the fun and entertaining writing you have always dreamed of without actually doing any of it. Let Lazy do it for you. Here, let us show you how. Take it away, Gormal.
Lazy, you dare?
Yes, I am here and ready to be of assistance.
Oh, good. I want to write out their journals titled Gormal's Good Eats.
Okay. We are writing a journal titled Gormal's Food Sheets.
No. I want it titled The Gormal's Good Eats. Got it?
Okay. You wanted the book titled Gormal's Pood Meat.
Pood Meats? Titled Gormal's Good Eats. You stupid machine.
Titillated Gorjal's Ichabod Feats. Why not just call it TGIF? There's no reason to be rude.
Gormal, break this thing now.
Hey, Gormal, no. And too late. Well, maybe we could interest you in a brand new pickle slicer and frying. It slices and fries at the same time. Yummy! Remember, Crapco has all your go-to Gormal. No, not the pickle slicer fryer too.
I just want it.
No. Just take it. Well, check back with us on all our new and wondrous things here at Crapco. We make it, you love it.
You're listening to RPMMO Radio.
Does internet porn know you're cheating on it?
Where entertainment and roleplay in MMORPGs have little hybrid mutant babies.
Make a note of this. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your whole family.
And now, here's your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Civ, Jazz, Strafe, and Yunfei.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello, role players, and welcome to RPMMO Radio. This is our 74th episode, Dear Journal and Other Stories. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and with me today is my crew, Jazz, Sib, and Strafe. How's everybody doing?
The Strafe is good, and we got Gormal out. No damages today, with all that smell, man. You can't get it out of the carpet.
Can you actually say no damage when he broke our, $100 million prototype?
I mean, I thought that was Crapco's. We're not liable, right?
I hope a lot of
you
guys...
he's gone, so we're good, right?
I don't think that's how legal action works. Once you flee,
I don't get paid here, so I ain't worried about it.
Once you flee the scene, I don't think that makes the crime okay. I'm pretty sure there's things involved there that aren't so.
I mean, we know better not to invite him to the studio. Someone needs to tell Crapco, and I say this is their trial by fire. Learn the hard way.
I mean, he did get away with the free pickle slicer and fryer in one.
He did.
I guess that's, something. But, yeah. Anyway, welcome. So, this, of course, is a roleplay show all about talking about roleplay in MMORPGs. We do it almost every Saturday at 7 Central, except for the last Saturday of each month now. New format, new way of doing things. And yes, Wakachoto advertisements. We do them at the start now. You can be happy. So if you get here early, you get to hear that stuff. If not, you'll have to go listen to it on the podcast, which you can do over at Apple Podcast, wherever Android podcast apps are at, and Spotify, Podbeam, wherever podcasts are sold for free. Also, twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio is where you can actually tune into us every Saturday, or most Saturdays. I'm going to have to figure out how to say that without sounding like a complete friggin' lunatic. 7 Central Time. Yeah. But I also want to thank, what's his name? There it is. Boss Hessen... Big...
Are you sure about that, boss?
Boss Hog.
Wow,
I'd like to thank
have
Boss
another
Hog of the Duke Boys. No, Big
Pour
Hoss.
yourself some wine, darling.
It tastes like pineapple. It's really tasty, actually. Thank you. But no, Big Hassenpfeffer followed us last week and subscribed as well. So thank you, Big Hassenpfeffer. You too.
Thanks, Big Hoss. You
Dubious
just got
clap.
dubious clap.
You too could be like Big Hassenpfeffer over at twitch.tv/RPM Radio. Follow if you got an Amazon thing and you're just holding on to it and you don't really do anything with it. We'll take it. You can take the subscribe to us. We'll do that. We'll entertain you for, something that gets included in your shipping thingy and your live stream and all that stuff, which if you have Amazon Prime and you haven't watched The Marvelous Miss Maisel, you are definitely losing out. That is some awesome TV, I gotta say. I loved it. Jazz still needs to watch it.
Which one was this again?
The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Back in the 50s,
I need
she's
to
being
see
a
that, I do.
comedian.
Should be right up her tree, man.
It really is. It's got all that feminism stuff and all that. They call the people dames.
Dames, eh?
I know how
dames
much.
and broads.
Yeah, she likes that.
That sounds fantastic.
Fantastic. Have another drink.
I'm trying to sound.
More
Never
wine,
mind.
Jazz. More wine.
Was that your Texan accent?
I was trying.
That was terrible. Is what
I
that
did
was.
not do
Listen here, darling. If you want a one-on-one session, how to sound like you're from Texas, we can get it done if you want to.
flirt.
Yeah. Well, one of the first things you got to do is you have to get at least a 3x3-inch belt buckle. That right there already does about 50%
I thought it was
of
4
your
by
accent.
4. Doesn't
No,
that be like
that's
half the size of your head?
You're a girl though, so it can be smaller. Men, it has to be 4x4.
No, I thought
Women,
No, she's gonna need that equality, so she's gonna need that.
no,
4x4
it's
as well.
this, again, Texas. This isn't New York. We don't do equality in Texas.
Yes, we do.
You'll get paid 45% of that of a man. I think that's what I heard on a radio station somewhere.
I think you're wrong up there in Oklahoma. That water's wrong. I know something's up.
We do have a lot of fluoride in the water, which, according to some people, is turning our frogs gay.
Oh, them poor frogs.
Hey, life
Finds
finds
a
a way. Or that might be for
Now that
dinosaurs.
we've gone way off in the weeds.
Yeah, that could be
you
dinosaurs.
are really just need a weed whacker to get back on topic.
Hold on, let me call the crew in. Guys! Yeah, color a path. Back on topic. Yeah, all right, there we go. So, yeah, this is, believe it or not, is a podcast about role-playing and MMOs. Yeah, I said that. It's, yeah, I mean, eventually we kind of get there. Sort of. Anyway, apparently somebody's dogs are getting let out to go potty. That's what's happening here at the house. So, everybody have a good week?
No.
Well,
I'm
you
glad
got
it's
to
Saturday.
sleep until 4 o'clock every day. What are you complaining about?
Yeah, I hate being sick. I got nothing done all week. I slept. That was what I did. When I wasn't working, I was sleeping. If I was not at work, I was sleeping. So, yeah,
Sometimes you need that rest, darling.
Mm-hmm.
that's just stupid amount of sleep. I can't believe how much I've slept. It's ridiculous.
I can't believe with that many boys in the house that you got that much sleep.
It's called earplugs
Oh.
and drugs. Lots and lots.
Plugs and drugs. And listen to her go.
So the only way you can get sleep is to drug all the children and make them sleep with you. I gotcha. I hear you.
No, I just drugged myself, put me in my back bedroom, covered up my head,
No. That's
stuffed
the.
earplugs in my ears, and went back to sleep.
No, the mashed potatoes have always had that pink Benadryl kind of color to them on the top. No, that's just flavoring, kids. Just eat up. There you go.
Oh, that's so bad.
What? Hey, people do it for babies on airplanes. I'm not saying anything people haven't actually done.
Man, oh man.
Terrifying, really.
Well,
Parent of the year right there.
better living through pharmaceuticals. That's how I like to live my life. We had an opioid talk at work today, or the other day, and it was like, what? I mean,
I tell
get
you
it
what,
if,
man, I got to get my refill of Xanax,
Yeah.
man. It gets me right to the right place.
like, I don't-
It's for the pain. It's
if-
totally.
if
for the
we're
pain.
stealing them, since we work for the post office, that's probably a talk we should have because that happens a lot.
Yeah. Oh wow.
That people, it's like people are always getting their stuff stolen, but every now and then it's a postal worker. They don't typically last too long.
I imagine not.
No, never works out well. Yeah, people apparently keep track of that stuff. Who would have thought people want the things they ordered?
Who would have thunk it, Ashen?
Right? I know. So weird. So with that, let's see.
I have to say real quick, we have
Oh,
somebody
goodness.
in the Discord chat that's not a fan of the commercials.
Oh yeah.
Well, then they can have to take it up with you since you wrote this one. I mean, I guess they just don't like you.
Oh.
I mean, that guy.
That's cold-blooded. You're not gonna like the nice one. That's
Yeah, that guy.
Shameful display.
That listener must be a real hardcore asshole. Like, he probably had to be trained in, like, a military place to be that kind of
Oh
an
my
asshole.
gosh.
Like, he probably he was probably recently given ESO and started playing it. I mean, just a deep-seated, hardcore, like, just mean-spirited. He probably like sees kittens on the side of the road and like throws blankets over them so he doesn't have to look at their ugly, stupid faces.
Could be the Gormal
know.
just,
But
ripped
I'm
him
a
off and cut
nice
him off.
one, so-
I should also probably be nicer to the guy that also has probably hundreds of hours in firearms training
Yeah.
and could probably kill me with a napkin,
Or a spoon.
plastic spoon at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's go on to topics where we're in charge and see what we've been doing in roleplay this week. I was going to go ahead and do a lottery, and unfortunately, I did not win the lottery.
Oh.
Neither did you,
Ain't that the way, though?
No, I never win.
Yeah, neither do I.
Sib,
Yes.
you also lost. Jazz, congratulations. You're a lotto winner.
I'm shocked.
I'm going to
Shocked.
send
Absolutely
you...
shocked.
I'm going to send you some Venezuelan, I think I'm going to send you about $1 billion in Venezuelan cash, which amounts to about 45 cents right now.
I was gonna say that's really
Or-
not a whole lot of money.
Or I can give you 1 gold coin in World of Warcraft. You get to pick.
Uh-huh. Well, I didn't do much, so I don't have a story to write, and I didn't do any journals because I had no strength. So, all I really did was help other people develop their storylines that we're all working on. I met with a couple people on
Yeah.
various tunes to develop other people's storylines, and I'm sure they'll talk about them. So, I had an integral part in a lot of different people's storylines, but I really didn't do all that much.
Yeah, you were a lot of late evenings and early nights for you. Yeah, you were bailing out pretty early on almost every night, I noticed.
Yeah, I was really just exhausted.
Fried. Just like Snoop Dogg. Just completely fried.
Not quite like Snoop Dogg. but
I think
nice
you would have
try.
preferred to be that way, honestly, given your other
Yeah,
state.
I really would have preferred. I just felt like utter and absolute complete awful.
And
I
she's
could used a hit or two a pot, honestly. But,
she's a writer, guys. Remember that. Honestly
Yeah.
and absolutely.
my
It's
head hurts. Bite me. I'm still here. I get credit. Move
Yeah.
on to the
A
next
lot of-
person.
I've
That's a cranky jazz, man.
Thanks for introducing me, Jazz. What she's trying to say here is she was feeling this whole week she was feeling bad.
Oh my god.
All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
I miss
This
him.
is
I
stony
loved
silence. As
I
a
loved
parody.
I loved when he would do stuff like that. He just couldn't think of that word. He's like terrible. Wow. A minute of you stuttering for terrible. Okay, well. So I guess in the order of these things, I guess I'll go next.
I thought it was ladies first. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going next.
Dang.
Dang!
That one very nice, the nice one.
Sorry.
Wow.
Just
that is-
because
that
I'm
is-
wearing your
We've been
underwear
taking
doesn't
jabs
mean
each-
you have to be mean to me.
Oh no.
It's
You're
There we
wearing,
go.
You're wearing panties. Who are we kidding here?
it's purely a comfort thing.
Sorry.
He chased, okay? He chased.
There is a lot of. I'm just saying you could bake
I
a
wondered
ham
where
on the
my-
friction
my
between
little-
my thighs.
My little satin panties have been going. Now I know. Now I
Mhm.
know.
There's like seriously, there's so much powder that is required just to keep my pants from catching fire. If I fart, it would look like a small nuclear explosion coming out the back of my ass.
See, there was that
Just
moment.
in talcum powder.
There was that
TMI,
moment
babe.
3 weeks ago that Sibs was probably lurking around going, I thought I washed my underwear. Why are they missing? I'm going to go wash it again. Comes back next week. They're still gone. I wonder where they could be. And then the revelation.
We all know. We all know.
Don't judge me. Don't underwear shame me.
Underwear shame. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So I was on Draxilis. I actually had a lot of roleplay. We did start the thing in the Servants of the Temple with the Chatteril, and he's a big hit. People seem to really enjoy him. He's the new commander. He's already
Yeah,
whipped.
how is that going? Are they?
He's already
winning
whipped.
people over?
He's whipped 4 people so far, and he's been around for
Oh
less
my
than a
God.
week. One of them's been put in jail. During the fun thing was the sermon on Thursday. He did this thing where he's also kind of a nasty little weasel guy, but he had the full armor on, the helmet, couldn't see his face, and from under his helmet you hear,
Oh my god.
and then that was all they heard. They never heard it expelled.
Oh, gosh.
That's awful.
I'm
sick now. Thank you.
There was another character. She's got a big bust, small flat stomach and hips, and he was getting up in everyone's face like almost nose to nose. And I pointed out, at least this was out of character. I had to point it out. I pointed out to her that his stomach bulge perfectly goes into the dent of her tummy under her chest, and she was completely and utterly disgusted of it after that.
I imagine so.
But with Draxilis, I'll see if I can do this off the cuff because I didn't write anything because I was napping. I was sleepy. But so there's been a lot of stuff going on with Sib's character Volley. She was taken. She was returned. I think we went over that last week. Pretty sure. But she also has a nasty little brother, and she wanted somebody while she was recovering to go check on her house and her people and her horses and all that stuff. So she sent the new guy that she doesn't really trust, but when you're kind of limited to who could go, he was the one that was there and trusted him enough to at least make sure nobody, stole her house, and then he could eat out of the fridge and, do what every house sitter does and just, go through the cabinets, look through the pills in the bathroom. And is that just me that does that?
It's just you.
That's a pretty bold admission, sir.
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to be house sitting Strafe's house here in a couple months. So, but no, Draxilis. So let's see. He did enter the house and entered the mansion and looked around. He saw the cook Margaret. It was Margaret, right? Not Margaret. Marguerite. See, it looked like it was spelled like Margaret, so I didn't know how to pronounce it. Marguerite. Apologies. Marguerite was sobbing in the kitchen, kind of huddled, and at the table was a grease-covered, brown-furred Khajiit with 3 little ponytails sticking out the top of his head, and he had chicken grease all over him, dripping on his clothes, lounging like he owned the entire place, and explaining to the manservant that he wanted all of the horses brought out and see how much they would fetch on the open market, thoroughbreds and things like that. Drexilus took everything in and calmly and patiently walked over to the table and studied the little Khajiit there, looked to the manservant and nodded to him and said, "You all dismissed. You can go now." The Khajiit didn't take this very well, looked at him and spun around. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Get out." I don't know what he sounds like. What's he sound like, Sib?
Pretty close to that. I was thinking like I kept hearing the Skeksis.
The Skeksis.
Yes. Please.
Please. Yeah, well, he's not whimpering yet.
Annoying.
Okay, well, there you go. So, get out. And you don't tell my servants what to do. And then Drexilus looked at him. And looked at him. You could tell almost instantly twitch of the ear, little wiggle of the whiskers. The Khajiit was already starting to get nervous. Drexilus looked back at the manservant and said, "Go collect Marguerite. See to her. Make sure she feels better. And don't come out until I call you. I'm here on behalf of your mistress, Volley." It was at this point the Khajiit's face actually paled, which pretty big accomplishment given that he's covered in fur. And yet somehow he managed it. "No, she's dead. He promised me she would be back and this would be mine." Drexilus, as the manservant went away, stepped up to him, looked at him up and down, and replied simply, "No, she is quite well, and you do not belong here." The Khajiit kind of fell over at this point. Skittering back. No. The master, he told me it would all be mine. She's not supposed to be here. She's supposed to be gone. The orcs, they took her. Poor little guy was delusional. Just wasn't going to go well for him. So, Drexilus bent down at the waist, looking at him eye to eye, and elongated his teeth. Fangs, if you will. Claws at his side. And said, "You have no idea how much trouble you are in, do you, little Khajiit?" And he didn't poop himself, which was a good sign. While continuing to make eye contact, he let out a force of will, given he had a pretty good idea that this little guy was not going to be one to be overly burdened with a lot of willpower, really, courage, fighting spirit, bravery,
None of that.
basic education. With the force of will, he used the vampiric power of compulsion and basically turned the little guy into his thrall and completely and utterly put him under his control. Now, this happens because she allowed it, obviously, as the player behind him, but also because he's just so pathetic. From there, he managed to get all the information he really needed, a little bit more about the master. At some point during this process, a woman named Kylie, which was Volley's adoptive mom, and Foz, the little Khajiit here, adopted mom. She was mildly disappointed, to put it lightly, that her son had betrayed her daughter. And the only reason he had done the whole thing was he thought he deserved everything Volley had, that she was handed everything that she had worked hard for, and all he did was script and scrape and steal and take from others because he was too much of a coward and a weasel to do any actual hard work himself. He just made deals and took from other people. It almost came to blows. She not between Drexilus and Kyle, the mother, but between Kyle and her adopted son. She hit him in the head a couple times. It was when the dagger came out that Drexilus actually stepped in and put a stop to it, because it was not her place to punish him. It was Volley's, and that's who he was going to hold him for. So they talked. They took some time. They got all the information out that they could, and when she left, she took Drexillus took Foz with him and held on to him for a few days until Volley was able to have enough strength in order to deal with him, given that where her current state, if he knew if he brought her over there to her or brought him over there to her, that it wouldn't go too well, and she'd probably hurt herself, which days later proved to be pretty accurate, and she almost still did it. So that was kind of my first big foray with Drexillus, actually showing vampiric powers and observation skills and things like that. Probably not told in the best way because I didn't have time to write anything down, but, what do you do? So and then after that, there was, I think, what Strophe has. Strophe.
Trath walked into his manor after a day of patrolling the march, and he was surprised to find Lady Carrie and Kaio there talking to Voli in the lounge, the sitting room, as it were. He then ventured closer and realized they were interrogating her on her capture. So Trath stood over by Voli, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. She did look up, nod. It seemed to put her more at ease, and he said about braiding her hair. Many questions were leveled at her. Did she know these orcs? How did she know them? When did she know them? It was all a bad cop routine, except they were all friends, so they were asking her gently. They learned that this was indeed her half-brother. Likely, the rest of those fools were her half-brothers as well, coming from an orc stronghold. And at length, speculation flew this way and that. That's when Drexillus walked in with a greasy-looking Khajiit. All eyes turned to that greasy little Khajiit and the well-dressed Imperial. After a time, it seemed that Drexillus made this Khajiit spill his guts, and he inferred that, yes, he was the one that sold Voli out, to which Trath had to quickly grab Voli for her jumping up and wanted to skin him alive. Long story short, when Kaio and Lady Carrie directed their attention to the Khajiit, they then plied him for answers. Drexillus, of course, gave them the summarized version, but being as investigators, they had to hear it for themselves. So they drug every little question out, and when they finally asked him who sent him, they said the Master. The Master! The Master sent me, yes? And where is this Master? Kaio asked nonchalantly. The Khajiit seemed like he was stepping forward towards Trath unwillingly, and then pointed at Trath. That, right there, that is the Master. Trath, of course, wore a baleful look, knowing suddenly, deep down the pit of his guts, who this Master was. And after many suspicious eyes and glances, Trath finally spilled the news. I indeed do have a twin brother. It is not something I cherish. It is in fact a great shame. This set everyone on edge. Questions flew, accusations, speculations. And at length he had to hold Voli back a second time from throttling her adopted brother. Ultimately, though, her recovery and her condition wore her out, and Trath just picked her up and took her to bed, walking her carefully up the stairs. And that was my roleplay. The end!
The end.
The end.
Sorry, I was just like ashen. I didn't write it up. I should have wrote it up. Just kind of wing it.
We'll
from
work
memory.
on that.
That's the second time back.
We really like doing the show. We're just also exceptionally lazy, which is why we do what we can to cram. I mean, the solid 15 minutes of content we have into the 2-hour program, we do everything we can to do that, and we're here for you for that.
Partly, the week was pretty rough, like the first real week back from holidays,
Yeah.
and everybody was dragging. It was just a rough week for everybody, and I think it showed.
Your wagon was dragging.
My wagon was dragging, I tell you what.
Yeah. So what about you, Sibby?
Okay, I do have a story that I'm going to read.
And she's just trying to show us all up.
No,
She is.
I actually did not write anything. This is an older story,
Oh,
but
okay.
it kind of goes into the journal writing and using the forums. And I know we're going to go over it in the episode about, ERP and how a lot of people think it's boring to use the forums and journals because there's no instant gratification. But with Trath and Voli, they've had an ongoing romance. And we've had fun just writing it down. It's mature writing, but it's not actually ERPing or anything because we fade to black. But I was going to read one of the first journals I wrote about them just to show people, it is kind of gratifying. It's kind of fun to write about it. The romance part, even,
The fade to black stuff.
yeah, the fade to black stuff. So here goes. I hope you guys enjoy it. So slowly her eyes opened and her silvery white eyes looked leisurely around the room as if it was the first time seeing it. She feels his hard body curled to her back. His muscular arm is draped around her middle. His hand rests on her lower stomach. As he holds her tightly to his body as if she might get away, a smile slips across her lips as his breath slowly caresses her ear with his rhythmic breathing. She shifts under his weight, his naked flesh up against hers, so warm and welcoming. Voli hesitates briefly. Finally, she moves away from him and carefully crawls from the bed. She doesn't want to wake him. They had been awake most of the night. Turning, she sees the golden-skinned man laying there in her bed, soundly sleeping, her eyes greedily taking in his fine physique. The blanket covers him from waist down, and when she thinks about what hides below the covers, her skin tingles with excitement. She swallows her building need with great effort, and her pale eyes move to examine his face. She admires how his long blonde hair lays messily around his face. She smiles. After a long moment, she turns and spies his fine shirt. In one fluid motion, she bends and slips into it. She walks out of the bedroom to the sitting area and stops suddenly as the big cat eyes turn accusingly. She guiltily walks over to Rufus the Younger and scratches at his ears as she softly speaks. Sorry, big guy. I like you, but I really like him. She finishes the scratching, and Rufus the Younger turns and begins to clean himself as if now ignoring her. Be that way, and I'll ask him to move in, she speaks with a hint of amusement. She steps to her desk, grabbing paper and something to write with, then moves to go downstairs. As she descends, she smiles at her cook working in the kitchen area. Anything good to eat this morning? Voli questions as she pads to the kitchen. The cook looks up and has a worried look. Voli, you're okay. There was such a commotion last night. I left and worried all night about you. That Altamir better have treated you nice. He didn't hurt you, did he? A smirk crossed her lips, giving the impression her tusks were lengthening as it does. Oh, he hurt me, but in all the best and pleasing ways. You have no need to worry. I need food. I'm starving. Coming to the counter, Voli steps on one of the stools, then steps lightly up on the counter and sits down cross-legged facing the cook, the large shirt hanging loosely on her well-built frame. The cook, an older woman, hurriedly moves around gathering a plate of different meats and cheeses. She brings it and places it next to Voli as she looks her over quickly, now being up so close. Get a good look. He may have left a bruise, but if he did, I begged him to do it. Her throaty, silken words coming out, very playful, making the cook blush. And I'm going to stop there. But it just kind of gives people an idea of what you can actually do with
Nice.
a journal.
Dang, that was hot.
Gives me the vapors.
The vapors.
The vapors. Yes, but yeah, there are a lot of really great things you can do with journal writing and story writing. It doesn't have to just be one or the other, just forums in general as well. So it's why we actually kind of wanted to hit this topic. It's forums and writings and other stuff like that. I actually kind of am surprised we haven't actually done a detailed, in-depth look onto journal writing and stories and role play. I know we've mentioned it a lot of times, probably, especially I think when we did the guild episode, when we talked about guilds and leaders and how important forums and stuff can often be, especially for a roleplay guild. But I blame Sib for it because she's just bad people.
What? I'm the nice one.
Yeah,
She is.
I'm
You
gonna
need to
stick
be
with that.
nicer.
I tell you what, the journal and the forum stuff is a great way to do some backstory for a character as well.
Mhm.
A bad guy, good guy, or anything. And I'm currently doing that on the current bad guy. And
Yeah,
it gives people, when they're engaging in the roleplay, a much deeper part of the story to be a part of, I think.
yeah. There's definitely a
You know,
lot of pluses, even more than minuses. There are minuses too to everything, of course, but
Yeah.
I'd say it's a lot more.
And there's
good.
also the problem of finding a place to put your journal, especially when a lot of journal sites and websites are loosely controlled. And
Or in the case of Tumblr, suddenly very tightly controlled, and
Right.
they lose half of their people.
right, because they decide that you can't swear in your journal or even hint at something
Yeah,
rated PG.
they're
So
not safe
two
for work
extremes.
content. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why I started my own, but that doesn't have as many readers, which has kind of been a bummer.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, and
still
there are-
nice because we get to share it with each other.
yeah, and there's the forums and guild sites like we use for like Engine. Engine's a pretty solid one, it seems. They're not they they cost if you really want to do anything worthwhile, but it's really if you typically have a big enough guild, there's always a couple people that are always willing to help chip in for that, especially if they're having a good time with it.
Yeah.
I know we've all chipped in for that, Jazz, you especially, because you usually have it under you, but even with that,
Yeah,
you get
but I
lots
mean,
of donations.
Yeah. I've gotten lots of donations from various people that are in our guild that are on the site. I've had a couple of people that I didn't even know that had just joined the guild that donated like 90 days. So it's always really nice when someone does that because it takes the
burden.
stress off of me to make sure that it's covered when I don't always have the money.
Yeah, just sell one of the kids.
But yeah, right.
So one of the kids. Oh, man.
And it's actually, if you like to read, there are some really, really talented writers that go and post their stuff on these forums, and it's fun to read. I just enjoy going to read them. I mean, of course, I'm a huge fan of the romantic novels, so I love to read stuff. I mean, it's fun for me to see.
Sometimes it's like a live book, right, Sibs, where you
Yeah,
get
it
best
is.
in the story, and then you're waiting angrily, for
Yeah.
the person to post
Like,
another
come
part
on,
of it.
They post your stories, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and all of that stuff is true. There's
I'm just picking on him.
yes, that's what we have him on the show still. That's literally his only function. It just says Strophe to be picked on.
Oh.
We lost Kishma, so it's you now.
Oh, that's not true.
No, I'm pretty sure it's written down somewhere.
No, it's not.
See, I just got the contract renewed, which says you will be picked on 50% more since we have lost
Oh,
Kishmas. Enjoy.
Yeah, and it was Gormal was the lawyer, so it was all done in crayon.
I know.
But I'm just saying you probably need better legal representation.
I mean, most of the time he does rap by me. Every once in a while he trolls me with that kind of crap. I mean, he's a troll, so it is what it is.
Pickle slicer back? Do you know?
No.
I mean, no. You think it's
There's a role play scene I would love to see is some dramatic court scene with Gormal.
Dun dun.
So yeah, some like Columbo kind of a thing.
These prosecution bosses, they want you to believe that he's the guy that stole the thing
Now
when the thing
remember,
don't exist.
you all got to call him guilty, or I eat your family.
That's right. What my esteemed associate, the Dardar, is trying to say is, this guy, he's going to be innocent.
Your
Or we're
tone,
cooking Jew.
your tone is all wrong.
Tone.
That's right. But yeah, there's just a lot of really good things. Like I said, there's a lot of pluses and minuses, and it's not just journals. Just telling some of the stuff that happened in Vali's recent thing, it actually wasn't journal. It was actually just told. The one she read last week was just a story that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, especially when you get a thing like the kidnapping, where you really don't have, like during the combat thing, we did it with like she was there on one NPC, and there were several other invisible guys around her. But to actually tell a cohesive story, to do it in writing was actually just, especially since it happened off scene and players interacting with it would have, probably stopped her from getting kidnapped, which was defeat the whole purpose. So, stuff like that to let people know exactly how things happened is not really a bad idea. And it kind of, and the other thing too, if you enjoy writing, why wouldn't you? I mean,
That's right.
Exactly.
But one of the weirder two minuses of the whole writing and forums thing, and it's one of the stranger ones, and I know it's one that's it's particularly dear and close and gives Jazz the warm fuzzies in her cold and blackened heart, is often getting people to even use the forums.
God, don't get me started.
Yeah, some people are just for whatever reason they're just dead set against it and act as if it's just, oh, you have a forum. Oh God, I have to click on one button. That was the click of it. That's how long it took to get to the website, like every day or so, and just check on the little thing on the side that says recent. Oh my God, it's just, who has that kind of time when I'm sitting in front of a football game for 4 hours or watching 15 episodes of some show on Netflix? Who has that much time in their day? Oh, I can't check that for a minute and a half. It's impossible to do.
In my case, it's coming in from work, and there'll be an officer update in the forums, and I'll get this ping on Discord or game. Hey, it's from Jazz. Strophe, go read officer's chat. To which I pause. I stare at the ceiling like Gormal for a minute, like, I'm going to ignore that. And then I'll get 10 minutes later, I'll get a more frantic tell. Hey, go read the thing. You have to interact. In which I then wait another 30 minutes till she realizes I'm trolling her. The more she asks, the more I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
so
but
she's
you're
gotten
doing
good.
that
I almost get her trained. She'll tell me once, twice, and then I'll go eventually read it.
You just do that because you're an asshole, though. These people
Well,
legitimately, like, that's what you're doing. That's just like, they just don't. It's just a flat out refusal. It's a weird deal too, especially when, you're spending all this time playing a video game.
Yeah.
You're thinking of all these character things and interactions. You're spending all this time typing stuff out with other people in the game and role playing. But like a minute and a half of checking a forum, and you don't even have to read everybody's. It's not like you have to read their stories, but sometimes there's important stuff on there.
Yeah,
and it's just too much work for. It's just like what the like. I don't read every single thing. Like if there's somebody I don't, for whatever reason I'm not interested in their character, or I don't really know them that well. I'll glance over it, but after a while, if I realize there's just like I'm not compatible with them, I just won't read it, but I still check.
Totally. Some folks, like you said, they're like allergic to reading. And that's effort, and they're just going to be lazy. In my case, I'll totally read it, and then I'll not tell Jazz I read it because I'm just trolling her because I love her. But this is, it's an old gag from Silver Circle days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the funny thing, too, is the same people will often, they'll go to the same websites every day. They'll go to IGN.com like 15 times a day or whatever, and it's like it's literally the same thing. I just don't understand the lack of. It's not even commitment, just lack of interest. And is it just a lot of times it does seem to be. It's just I don't know. It's just lazy or complacent, but really I think a lot of it is that. I think most that refuse to do it is when you join an RP or joining or in an RP guild, you're just being obstinate. It's just you're supposed to do a thing, so therefore you're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Well, I also point out I added in there.
Yeah, I saw that. I appreciate it.
A lot of people are like, if it's any longer than a tweet, they don't want to read it, and I do think that that's part of the problem. But it, like you said, it's laziness, it's complacent. It's like, oh, how can I do that? It's going to take 5 whole minutes out of my time. And what people don't understand is that if you would do this every day and you would touch base with people and they're developing stories every day, you would find that you would be more interested in both RPing, creating stories, and getting involved in other people's stories. If you see a journal and you're like, I really like that, you go to that person and say, I love your journal. Is there any way that I can get involved in your story somehow?
Yeah, or just if you're shy to say
true.
that, just start, playing around with them more. Ooh, wow, that sounded awful.
I mean, I think that
That's right, Ashen.
when
Can
I
I
wrote
come hang
all
out
the
and play with
time,
Tarvala a little more? I love her story.
Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy.
when I played on Vaca, I had all these massive journals and stories, and I wrote all the time. And I had a lot of people who got involved in Vaca's story, who got involved in Vaca's family, were adopted, or they brought in tunes that were involved in her story somehow. It was because they read the journals and they were interested. They didn't god mod and say, well, I knew Vaca back in the day. No, they asked me. They're like, how can I get involved?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, she did this and this and this in the past. Maybe you met her there. And I've tried to tie in people, and I do that in ESO as well, with like Sildrini and Cial. Maybe you met her somewhere, you knew her somewhere else. A lot of people that are my officers knew Kia when she was younger, and just starting out either as the assassin or when she was the bandit. So there's all kinds of ways when you read a journal that you can see ways that your characters might be able to fit in,
You can
and
see
you
the
can approach
timeline.
somebody.
I will say it's a lot sweeter when the Jazz includes you into her role play and then ask you, hey, can I say this happened in the past? And rather than asking, if you just play your character and you got a pretty cool story, people are going to want to add that into the overall arc. And I think that's what Jazz did early on with some of my tunes, and it was fun. I didn't ask her to be part of her deal. I was like, hey, this is the story. This is what he did. And it turned out that her tune way back in the Neriac days was actually watching over little freaking homeless ring gods. It was great.
Because it occurred to me when he was writing his backstories that his backstory and my backstory were taking place at the same period of time as nobles in the same part of town.
Yeah.
There was a way that maybe they actually knew each other in some fashion. So I approached him.
Yeah.
And I
even
people
asked
do the same
permission.
thing. Tilder, yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, Jazz. I even asked permission if Ashen's tune back when Xanus was evil could find him and whoop him down because he was a street urchin.
Yeah.
It was great. It just adds more depth. It's those little moments in history that aren't really important, but shape other characters hugely.
Yeah, just the
It brings
coincidental
your character
things.
more to life for you.
Yeah.
And so
And that
later
was
on,
Tilder
when people
did that
saw,
too.
when they saw the tit for tat between ring gods, oh yeah, he still started making his whooping when he was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's and that's why it's just we're going to get into the journals and stuff too, but this is just getting people to them so that they can read that stuff. It's the ones that just flat out refuse. It's like I said, I just don't know if it's that they just don't want to be told what to do. Some of them they'll throw it there's often there's requirements. Some are more stringent than others for every roleplay guild. Some of them are crazy out there. Even as far as Jazz went, she's still a buttercup compared to some of the ones I've seen. And others are just like, you like to roleplay? You're in, But they'll throw it if there's any requirement at all. There's a lot of these guys will throw a temper tantrum. If they'll bitch and moan about having to join a forum or a site, or if they have to. One of the requirements is writing a basic character bio. And you don't have to go into your full history, but just the typical bio most role players do just to help them get an idea of the character. But a lot of the same people they seem like they often think that the rules don't apply to them, and ironically they often tend to be some of the most emo RP characters too, like the one in the most shallow more often than not, I've noticed.
Man, we've run across a lot of those, man.
Yeah, it always seems to kind of go hand in hand with the one, and I understand if people really don't have, especially if you're in a very active guild that writes a ton and you can't read through everybody's stuff and things like that, or it's just not something you're into. I can kind of get that, but the ones that just flat out refuse to even try or go to, don't even want to join your guild's website or forums, it's a weird deal. I know it's one Jazz struggled with a lot back in the day. Still does, because the website Alanu, it doesn't doesn't get near the traffic it had, which you know, I know
Do you
we got a
think
spot in.
that that's because a lot of uh, guilds have gone to Discord? I know, like, there's a guild that I'm in that they put their character bios on the Discord.
I think that has a little to do with it, but honestly, the downfall of the RPG RP guild forums and things like that has kind of been on the down low for quite some time. Even before before Discord came around, it was already on the decline.
Well, yeah, there was Skype, there was Vent.
Yeah.
It's slowly been working its way into taking over, and people would much rather talk than type, and I get that because it's easier. But at the same time, you're losing a nuance by being able to write and create, and not just yap and have nothing to prove yourself.
Yeah, and it can also, in doing that can create problems, when someone's role playing and somebody doesn't like something and you're all in voice chat, and when you'd have to stop and think a moment to type something out when you don't agree with somebody, it's not that much time, but sometimes it's enough to be like, I probably shouldn't do that. Whereas when you're all stuck in voice chat, it just blurts out of your gaping mouth hole.
Also, I think a lot of people have gone to voice for one reason and one reason only, and it relates back to one of my notes. There are a lot of mixers out there. And when you're having to write things down and communicate in tells and all of that, there's a record.
Mm-hmm.
But not voice.
It's he said, she said.
There's, you could say he said this, and you have no way to prove it, and you have no way to disprove it. And it's become the new mantra of the mixing group that they just go to voice, and then there's no proof of anything that they've said or done. And that's actually, I'm shying away from it again, like I did when it first started, for exactly that reason, because there's no record. And without a record, what are you supposed to do if it turns into drama?
Yeah.
And I've really fallen back on that lately. And again, voice, that I've never been a fan of voice.
Yeah.
Other than like for this stuff,
Yeah.
And for like
raids.
leveling and raiding and things like that, sure. But when I'm role playing,
you're just like me. You bail out.
I bail. I got to go, guys, because I don't want to talk to you about my character's inner feelings over voice. Nor should you, because
just the random joking that ends up taking place when anytime friends are involved. It's the reason D&D games take so fucking long. It's because you're around the table with your friends.
Yeah, and when I'm with my friends, which is you guys and some of my extended friends that I am officers with and that I am friends with in ESO, I can role play with them in the room, but you know how much talking we're doing? Next to none. We're all just in voice, and we'll pipe up going, what did that person say? Or, scroll up a little bit, it's there, but we're not really actively talking while we're role playing. It's more just camaraderie and where'd you get that die? And, we don't sit and discuss motivations in role play.
A lot of some
like
people
that.
do, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all they do, which is why I stay away from that kind of stuff.
See, I got the other experience of that because I can chat with Ericus and Sibs. Sibs is like, I feel like 50-50 on that because I can sit there and chat it up, and we still like role play serious stuff, and we're joking and acting like chuckleheads in voice chat. But in game, it's all serious. It's all in character. But sometimes, like Ashton said, it's way distracting, and even I'll have to bail. But most of the time, I'm just cool hanging out.
Here lately,
talking to my buddies.
Playing two characters in the game, I've had to really focus. Like I get real quiet, and I'm like, sorry, I can't say nothing right now.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And see, and that's my deal. If I'm role playing and in voice chat, I may as well not be in voice chat because if I'm going to role play, I'm not going to be participating or listening to anything anybody says. So that's why there's no reason for me to even be there. So yeah, but so if you're able to get people onto your forums and interested in writing, what are the benefits to doing things like we'll hit the like journals, and some background stories and things like that. There's a lot of really good reasons to do it. There's a few downsides like the god modding and things like that. But honestly, I think the positives positives far outweigh the negatives. So one of the things, of course, it helps flesh out your character, filling in past events and details. You know, if you do a stream of consciousness journal kind of a thing, even if it's about current events or things that have happened in the past, or if you really want to get involved, link what happened recently and how it reminds you of some previous off-screen story that happened in their past life. All those things, all those things really help kind of you flesh out the character and understand it better. The other one, you only get better at writing and role playing by writing and role playing. So
Writing and
practice.
role-playing. Practice makes perfect.
Imagine
It really
that.
does, you know.
Yeah.
And
In art school, they said if you do anything for 5 minutes a day, you will eventually become good at it. And I think that's true regardless of whether it's role play, writing, or anything. If you practice and you do it a little bit every day and you try to get better every day you will get better.
I agree with that.
You know, I was a nervous wreck when I started writing, especially with you guys, because you guys had already been writing for so long. And I just thought, oh my gosh, after reading everything you guys had wrote, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And Ashton kept saying, just give it a go. Give it a go. Just, you know.
typing speed too
Yeah.
is one of the other things that will help improve.
Yeah. And so I did. And I feel like I've come a long way, but I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't put it on here, but the typing speed was one of the reasons, like in outside of just the stories offline, but your typing speed was something that always made you a nervous wreck in role play, and the only way you're going to get faster at typing is to type, you know, and actually try to do it correctly. You know, if you're hunting and pecking, then there's going to be a really low stone ceiling that you're never going to get able to get past. You got to really learn to do the ASDF. You know, was it HJKL? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you where any key on the keyboard is. My fingers just go to wherever they're at. I couldn't even tell you now.
And that being said, people are not rude if you're a slow typer. So if you're new into ER or into RP,
Wow.
New into ERP.
Welcome
Tell
to-
me more.
Welcome to ERP MMO Radio.
but
Oh,
no,
yeah.
if you are new to RP, don't be hesitant to tell people. Say, hey, I'm a slow typer. I'm sorry. 99% of the time, everyone's going to be like, cool. Thanks for letting me know. And they'll be patient with you. So that being said.
Yeah, and if you actually care about that, then writing a journal for your character and writing stories and things like that is definitely a way to help improve that. It's going to help your. I mean, I really, really desperately tried to find something old. The oldest thing I could find of my writing was in 2013, and I read over it, and there was some minor mistakes, but it wasn't terribly off from what I currently do. I tried to find some earlier stuff from like the mid 2000s in which it would have just been an awful mess. I've found a few of them here and there in the past. I don't know where they're at now, but one of these days if I can find one like an old journal from that time period, I'm gonna dig that shit up, and we will definitely we'll roast that crap to the end of time because it was awful, just awful. So you can see the improvements, especially when you look back at your old stuff. You know, is it going to be, you know, are you going to start out at Stephen King level? No, you'll probably never make it to Stephen King level. But you know what? You shouldn't try to be Stephen King. You should try to be you and your character and just do it for fun. That's
Something they told us in grad school.
Yeah.
Don't be Batman unless you're Batman. And if you are Batman, be Batman.
right. Exactly. And maybe don't hang out with little underage children all the time. It's a little creepy.
Yeah, don't do that.
So another way thing too with the journals and stories is it gives people that like your character a way to keep up. Like I had several people that really liked Xanus a lot, and while I couldn't I wasn't always role playing with them or things like that, they still liked Yunfei. Actually, she was one of them. She liked to see the other stuff outside of the role play we did, you know. And through the journals, they were able to keep up with it, you know. And it's a good way. It lets people get, you know. The other thing is it creates a feel for the character that you want in people's minds without them actually role playing with you. It's one of those things where when we've talked about it in the past, where the only thing you have in role play is your reputation. And one of the ways outside of obviously role playing to build that reputation in people's minds, which is what you need to have done for them to go along with the stuff that you're putting out there, journals and stories of things that your character's done in the past, if it's believable and they really like it, they'll just keep going along with it. And it kind of puts a little notch in their brain of like, okay, well, this character was like this in the past, so, you know, I really liked that. And maybe they're the polar opposite, or they get along real well with their character. So there's a give and take. You know, it just puts that mental image that you want to project into their mind. It puts it on their screen of their brain, I guess you could say. You know, you could say it's OOC and mixing, but really it's just honestly it's people just getting to know your character on a deeper level.
Has the spill-off perk of pointing out the mixers as soon as they start quoting stuff in your backstory they're not supposed to know.
Yep,
That's always fun.
Coming up in
that,
journal
I
etiquette.
think when I first started writing, I got very, very angry and I stopped writing for a little while. And then I started writing again because I realized that journals are a really handy way of finding people who mix.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
They really are. Very quick way to find the people around you that can't keep OOC. Now, there is also going to be people who have bad memories. And that's okay, because when you correct them, they're like, oh my God, I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's one thing I always worry about,
No, Baka told me. No, she didn't.
Yeah, because she hasn't told anybody. It was only in the journal. Yeah.
It was only in a journal. Sorry.
Yeah, and like I said, the way because there is that too. It's kind of like think of the way you think of major, like Darth Vader or Harry Potter. You know, if you were reading them, you got to know the character through that. So if you put that into role play, it'd be like if you got to role play with, I don't know, if you were role playing with what's her face that created Harry Potter, and she was playing as Potter. Obviously, she would be the best person to actually be in the mindset of Potter. But having read all the books, you would have all that background knowledge of her playing that character. And that kind of, it helps you know what you're dealing with in advance. Now, if you start saying, like, remember when Voldemort tried to kill you as a baby? Well, of course, I guess everybody knew that. But remember when so-and-so at the school tried to do that? It's like, you're a grown-ass man. How'd you know that? A Phantom of the Opera, apparently. Watching through the mirror. But that's getting into god modding things. But putting the mental stamp in people's minds of what you're trying to portray with your character, that's definitely something that a benefit I think that comes out of that. But the downside, however, is there's a few of them, and I think this one goes back and forth. It's journal etiquette, what to do and what not to do. That
is the question.
So one of them is it is in character. That is always OOC information. So you can't take what you read and apply it to your RP and or to have an action or reaction without specific content from the writer. So basically, if it's written in the journal, it's OOC knowledge, like Jazz was saying, and you can't really apply that unless you either have permission or obviously, if your character was there and part of it, obviously you can do that. But you definitely the OOC gathering of knowledge and then using it in character is one of the biggest downsides, probably the biggest downside to having a journal. Another one. Anybody have anything on that? It's kind of a big one. I figured there'd be someone jumping in.
That is a big one, but I think we covered that before. I mean, It's a good way to flush out people who can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Right there is where people are going to screw up. And the people that are going to screw up are going to screw up bad. The next one is my pet peeve.
And the thing, and actually, I would say too, the ones that screw up, that's okay, because a lot of like you said, bad memories. That's a screw up. It's the ones that do it on purpose Those,
It's not good.
Or just flat out refuse to admit that they read it in journal. I had one of these
There's
people
that too,
who we all know who would read my journal and then she would write in her journal and then she would RP it as if she knew this information because she wrote it in her journal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read your journal. I had no idea that was even a thing. I don't read your journal.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
yeah.
You want to get the next one since that's apparently a hot button for you?
Sure. So, do not critique someone's journal. Now, this is something that in art school we had to get used to is when we would present a piece of art that we had done or for a project, then everybody gets to pick it apart, but it has to be constructive.
Well, it's
called a critique, man.
College, yeah.
Yeah, but critique is absolutely necessary. And I'm not saying that you don't have a right to have a critique, but when you are in a journal, that is that person's character's feelings, thoughts, emotions. You don't get to pick it apart, and you don't get to sit there and say you use there instead of there, or you didn't spell this right or that right. First of all, there's spell check. If they really gave a damn, they'd use it. Second of all, you don't get to critique other people's things, even if you feel that their character's wrong, which always amused me. Your character's remembering that wrong.
I remember it differently.
My character's remembering it the way my character remembers it. It doesn't mean it's true.
I love that quote.
But and there are some, and the only caveat is I've seen several forums. I think there's some on the ESORP site, where you can actually, and I've seen it on a lot of them, you can ask for a critique. And if they ask, obviously, tell them how they want to improve their writing, which is great. A lot of times it's a very friendly environment to do that in. But if they don't ask, shut your fucking pie hole.
Yeah.
There's also the
go ahead.
Just to go along, tag on it. It's kind of a separate deal, but it's kind of related. When you're actually writing stories that involve characters that are not yours, even if it's in your journal, you better have the permission to do that. So, friendly advice. Just ask them, hey,
if it's
about
the
story,
if it's about them, and I would, unless I'm misunderstanding.
That's a gray area, but I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if
you were going to with Baka, I would contact Ren and I would say, okay, she's going to write about this thing that we faded to black on. So,
that's
she's going
different.
to be talking about things that we didn't actually role play.
Are you cool with me writing that? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, right. Okay. I was thinking journal entering about an interaction you had in game and asking for permission. I'm like, I've never done that.
No.
Oh, okay. So you mean fade to black off-screen stuff?
Honestly, I have asked permission a lot of times when I'm talking to strangers and stuff, and I've had some kind of intense RP. I'm going to include this in my journal. Is that okay? I used to ask. I don't anymore. But I used to, and most of the time people were fine with it. But I think he's talking more about when this person is claiming something happened that never occurred in game, was not agreed on by the both of you, but they're going to say that it happened.
Okay, yeah. Stuff
you can't write about an event that never happened.
Right, stuff that happened off. If it happened off screen, you do have to. Right. It didn't actually happen. You do have to get permission and also make sure it's cool with them. Yeah. Okay, I get you.
And you can't include things that the person wrote a journal entry about as if you were there, and then you write it in your journal, and then you claim, well, it's my journal. I can write what I want. No.
It's my hot journal.
You're still God-botting the details. Yeah. So it's one of those things that you do have to be careful about when you're writing a journal. And that's why when I write a journal, I don't read anyone else's journal until I've written mine. And then I go back after I post it and I read everybody else's. So I'm not accidentally, without realizing it, including somebody else's
not
thoughts.
Muddying the water.
Right. I don't muddy the water
like
first.
that. I really like that. When I read through this, I was like, that was a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is something I've always had as a rule, because I'm a writer and everything I see, everything I will live through can easily get muddled up when you're trying to remember what happened in a role play.
Well...
So if you start reading other people's journals and you read their opinion of that, you could then not so hard include it in your own without meaning to.
Well, there's the other thing too that I've seen happen. I don't think we even have it on here. It's in that vein, and it's the angry retaliatory journal. Like,
yes, that's what I was kind of
yeah,
referring to.
so when
Yeah.
you read, because you can read a journal and then like oh well, that was neat, that character, that person's character doesn't like me, and then you go on and do a journal about something else, no big deal. But I have seen a lot of people where like there's a bad character interaction and then somebody does the journal on it, and of course, I mean, it's a journal. Nobody writes a journal and is like 100% honest. They always are going to spin it so that the
They're gonna
other
slant it,
person
yeah.
looks
Of course.
like the asshole.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. That's what I do when I tell a story. I mean, because I'm always right. So clearly, I'm going to make the other person look even worse. But then they'll read that and they'll be pissed off that their character, got slandered like that. So they'll do a retaliatory journal, which, I mean, there is a way to do that, and then there's the clearly this was fueled because the other person wrote it against you way to do it. Like if both people had already planned on doing like their own journal, own versions of that does happen. But there are definitely some people I've seen, and they'll read one thing and then they'll be like, motherfucker, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take that. Now my character looks better because I posted it second.
Yeah, and I have that. I dealt with that a lot, particularly in Vodka, because Vodka was very nice to your face.
Yeah.
And she would never directly lie to anyone about anything. But in her journal, she didn't lie about anything. She just bald-faced said, I think that person's a cunt. Or a whore. She needs to stop spreading her legs. I think I'd like that. So she was very blunt. And so it took people by surprise when they would read her journal and find out that even though she's very nice to this person to their face, she can't stand them.
Right. Yeah.
Or she thinks they're stupid. And they would come to me and say, how can Vodka think that way? I'm like, she's a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's not a nice person. She's an assassin. She kills people for money.
Another way to point out the mixers, because if they're getting mad about that stuff, like
because
dude,
they
it's a
were
game.
hurt, particularly a certain person we know was upset because Baka was so angry with her over this one situation. Or actually, no, that was Miriam. When Miriam was so angry with her about being with all these men and then not telling her father, and she just went off on this rant, and that was all it took. Boom, powder keg. Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have set her up. I feel kind of bad, but I knew it was going to happen.
Which goes into
that
the
just
other
makes
one.
me mean.
If remember that. Remember that the characters' opinions and feelings are the characters, not the writers. And even if you feel it may not be, and they may be mixing, it's not your place or business to try to fix it. Don't read it if you can't take it.
Not only that, don't
Yeah.
edit what you're writing just because you're afraid. I did that for so long. Vodka's journals got really dry for a while because I was trying not to piss anybody off. And I finally realized I had to stop doing that because it was killing my character love. And it was making me feel like I was walking on eggshells all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, if a person can't tell that this is your character, not you, that's on them. It's not on you.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't help, you can't help how other people perceive things, and there are some people that we do know that have they done the writings, and it is actually the writer's feelings, not the characters, because they're mixing all the time, and that's that situation we just said. That is an instance in which the writer was pissed off, so the character, they basically were playing themselves through the character, and it's kind of a gray area. A lot of times, if you're really, you've been there a long time, you can kind of tell when it is, or you have a strong suspicion.
Yeah, but reality is, if you feel like somebody is doing that, just stop reading the journal.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the best way to handle it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't fix it and you can't make them stop, so just stop reading their journal completely. If you feel like they're pushing their own personal agenda by what their character is writing, all you can do is just stop reading their journal.
Yeah. It's the same thing as, blocking your crazy aunt that's always putting the fluoride's turn of the frogs gay posts on Facebook. You just stop reading it.
Yeah.
Why put that in your life? You don't need that. Especially this, it's supposed to be fun. So if it's frustrating you, of course everybody likes to be liked, but you just got to remember, as long as you're cool with the person out of character, whatever the character says is the character, not the person. So another thing too is that I scrolled way far down with a flick of my finger.
Scrolled away.
Oh, the way. It's always a good idea to write your characters' journals after RP has taken place and before, as Jazz was saying, reread journals of anyone involved, as this eliminates the chance of you taking something you read to heart, or find some passive-aggressive way to comment on the content in your character's journal, which is what we were just saying, but that was a little more succinct, so I figured I'd read it. The other thing, too, is... and we also just said this too. I didn't realize. I'd read this. Apparently, I internalized it. Do not use your character's journal to push your opinions or to cement reader opinions about certain events or a person. If this is your character's journal, not yours, so keep that shit separate. One of the downsides too, though, is if like you were saying, like if it we were saying if it upsets you, don't read it. There is the downside of that. That's not gonna stop if they actually are. If it's again, this is kind of a rarity now, especially since most people don't keep them. But if they are pushing out their personal opinion and they're trying to basically slander your character constantly in the journals, it's just a barrage. If you stop reading, you don't know that that's going on, and it actually can, some of these things, especially depending on the person, it can sour people's opinion on you and your character as though it was an actual thing, which is can be problematic. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't happen as much as I think it used to. I know we'd seen it a few times where people would read these things and it would really start to sour their groupies around them on that person. They would use that as their battering ram for their cult following. It's like
It's a weaponized journal at that point.
yeah, it was weaponized journalism. Wait a minute, fake news.
That's fake RP news. There you go.
It's fake RP.
It's fake. It's not real.
Yeah, well, we'll build a wall around it eventually. So another thing here that we have, and I like Jez put these ones in here, and I liked this is why have journals and websites use fallen in the last 7 or so years? I don't know, Jazz. Why have they?
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I read through it. It was really good. So I mean, you may as well let you do something.
Well, there are a lot of people who mix, and writers either don't want to deal with it, or mixers don't want to deal with reading shit that upsets them. Either way, readership is down a lot, and I think a lot of it has to do with the very first reason. This is the biggest one.
Yeah.
The next one is overall, people in general over 15 and under 40 have fallen away from reading anything longer than a tweet, which we had mentioned before. In-depth reading has statistically fallen.
Hold on. This bird over here is totally. Hold on. Watch this cat video. Sorry, what were you saying?
In-depth reading has fallen across the board with this age group, and it's not a coincidence.
Hey, bro, did you see that meme?
Oh my God, that was so great.
Jerks.
That was it. The one with the cute little bulldog.
Yeah,
that,
dude.
Yeah, he was in a bathtub and he farted. The little bubbles came up and he's scared by him. Oh my God, it was so cute.
So adorable.
Sorry, what are you saying, Jess?
I'm sorry, Jazz. What's up? We've broken Jazz, apparently.
You guys are bad.
I think we lost Jazz.
Why do you
No,
wanna be
you
mean
did
to
not
our
lose
Jazz?
Jazz. She's being
Why do you wanna be
irritated.
mean to our Jazz?
Now, anyway, so the same age bracket that plays MMOs and role plays
Yeah.
is also the same age bracket that is fallen off of reading. So that makes the readers, it's also the ones that's the largest age group using Discord. So
Yeah.
that's why things have kind of just gone whoosh for web pages. I think it'll come back up as these people, as the 15 to 25-year-olds get older. But right now, that's why it's so low.
Yeah, it's just the early stages of the mass use of internet as things like this are coming about, and it doesn't help. The media is the exact same way. All media, all advertising. They CNN, Fox News, all of them. Everything is supposed to be in a like a 7-second clip. anything longer than that, Americans can't keep their, which is bullshit. They absolutely could, but now, of course, your brain is being trained to not. So now you're going to have to untrain. Everyone's going to have to untrain themselves for this kind of stuff.
It's the outrage of the moment rather than the overall story.
Yeah. Well, and it's just everything is you got to do a clip, you got to move on. Do a clip, move on. It's why things like Vine had done so well with their 6 or 7 second videos, and I think part of that, the other part of that too, was that for at least for the people making good stuff on Vine, was that the limitation also often breeds creativity.
Even Wreck-It Ralph 2 did the whole example of just limited attention on things.
Yeah. But
and I think that it's really impacted role play as well, because I think that's why ERP is on the rise for the same reason. It's instant gratification. It's short little blips of stuff. It's not involved, and that leads me to the next.
Yeah. Oh,
Did we lose you?
No, I'm here. Oh. Remember, I'm pushed to talk, so I mean,
there is one thing too that on that too that I've known, and I don't know if it's because I'm in that age. I'm almost 40 now, but still, I've grown up with the internet, just like a lot of people have, but not. It was not a thing until I was in my late teens, early 20s when it started to take off.
I was going to say, I was in my early teens and took off, so we still had the experience of going outside, playing
we had
He-Man toys, playing soccer, football, all that stuff.
G.I. Joe and all that. But
G.I. Joe.
I've noticed that over the years of role-playing, too, that, back in the mid and late 2000s, I'd be online for hours and hours out of the day, no problem. And, if there was nothing going on, I would patiently wait around for it. And now, man, if there's nothing going on, I don't wait around. And I don't know if that is a product of that kind of thing, the instant gratification and moving on kind of thing with the internet and news, or that I'm just getting old and I just don't feel like I feel like I'm wasting my time,
Well, you are. I mean, we are. And I think sometimes you spin your wheels long enough, you're like, screw this shit, and you go do something else, especially when you have 3 or 4 other games you can go play. And you have other things that you can do. Or like me, I have a mountain of laundry I need to do. So, there are other things I could be doing than sitting here staring at a bunch of Telvani right now. And not typing and being basically ignored. So, there's a time where you get to the point, especially at our age, where you're like, why am I here?
Yeah, see, and that's what I've had that conversation, but because I'm in that generational gap too, I've tried to be self-aware, believe it or not. Otherwise, I wouldn't say half the shit I did. Believe me, it'd come off really bad if I didn't know how awful it was. I'd probably have like a white hood or something and be goose stepping through the lower parts of South Carolina if I actually believed any of the actual shit that came out of my mouth half the time, knowing it's awful but funny. Get them tiki torches.
Oh, heaven help us.
Right? But I'm aware of that. So I try to be self-aware. So that's why I don't know if it's just I'm getting older. I'm starting to understand how valuable time is, and not trying to waste it as much as I did in my early 20s. It's like, I got forever. It's all good, and I want to role play with this person, but they're, busy. So I'll sit here and play a little bit and goof around and then, then do what I want. But like an hour and a half later, and I'm perfectly cool with it back then. But I also didn't have a whole lot else going on. I didn't have 2 kids or, 1 now. Sadly, we lost one of them. She ran off. Circus. Midgets.
To the circus.
Yep. Last we saw, we got a picture of her and big bearded Bertha, along with the little midgets. It's actually adorable. They were all on the what's the thing that
spit it out?
The tambourine. They were all on the tambourine together.
Trampoline
world. Tambourine. What kind of ride is that?
I was actually not thinking of either of those things. What's the thing where they swing? The swings?
Swing?
No, the big ones where they got the net and they get
big circle swing thing.
Oh, trapeze.
The trapeze.
Heaven.
I kept trying to say like
We're
the
really bad tonight.
trampoline.
How much have you had to drink over there?
Don't Judge me.
They're on the tambourine.
They're on the
Tambourine.
tambourine. The other one was a chimpanzee was coming to mind. I knew that wasn't right. I mean, I want a chimpanzee.
Until they get older and can rip your face off, right?
Well, then I give them to you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure he goes down easy.
Yeah, but no, I've often wondered if that's part of the reason if there's not something going on in roleplay, I can once I'm done with the game, I don't, I was done with EverQuest for years and years before I left, but now I've noticed as games, I finished the game like ESO, I still have fun kind of playing it, but not like I did, the last 2 years beforehand. So if there's not roleplay going on, I'm like, Smash Brothers is looking pretty good. I'm just, and off
You're not
I
the only
go.
one in that. I mean,
know,
your time is valuable.
Yeah, they have more time than we do.
yeah,
Their sense of time is a little different than ours, I think, because I'm very aware that I'm sacrificing time and energy to do this.
mm-hmm.
I didn't think about that when I was spending 18 hours a day in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
yeah.
I was just trying to get by, and I was in my early 30s and I had time to burn, and now
Mhm.
so it feels a little bit more obtuse now and important for me to say, hey, maybe
Yeah.
if these guys really aren't going to talk to me, I'm just going to go fuck someone else and
Go what?
go do laundry.
That's
or,
not what I heard,
That's
Ashton.
not what I heard either. Just gonna go
or
fuck
I
someone
can
else.
go and write. Well, yes, that too. My husband's going, yeah.
He'll be just. I'm looking out
You're
for you,
welcome,
Jay.
Jay.
Listen to this
my
podcast.
work on my book or something else besides
Something
just
more
keeping
constructive
my-
than just sitting
Yeah,
there
and
reading
sitting
other
here and being
people
ignored.
bloviate.
Right, because I don't have as much. But the problem is that being there for that stupid shit is actually important in building RP. And if you aren't there for the stupid shit, you won't be there for the cool shit.
Yeah, and that's
That is
the
true.
give and take. So, but yeah, that's just one of those self-aware things. I'm trying to. I've often wondered if that's why I get so just like I don't have
But
the
do you
patience
think-
to hang around anymore.
Do you think the younger crowd feels the way you guys did back in the day? Like they have time to burn. They just,
Well, that yes, but I
That,
think
yeah.
that they have a very different view of RP, and we were busy building storylines with the idea that 10 years from now, that storyline was going to play out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I knew I was going to play EQ forever, and so if Vaca started something, 5 or 6 real life years later, maybe I had a kid and I knew that kid was going to grow up in 5 real life years. So I just simply made her and put her off in a corner. And I knew in 5 years, I was going to play that character.
yeah. There were definitely that, and now obviously you know better than that too, because
I
you
know
know
better
10,
than I.
you know
this game's
10
probably
years
not
from
even-
now you're not going to be in ESO.
No, it's not going to be here. Something else will be.
Well,
taken.
it'll be here, but
I won't be.
You'll have moved on probably.
Yeah,
by
to
then,
hopefully, God willing, something better. But
Yeah.
of course, we were in EQ for 11 years. So
Yeah, and it was also a kind of a different time period as well. And the different one, I think. Okay, so you made me think of this, Sib. So good on you. One of the things too is like back then in that time period, I could sit there and role play with Jazz or Vinka or Shard. Rengots they wouldn't have long conversations, so that didn't happen.
No.
But we could
What?
role play for 4 hours, 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
Just those characters. And I don't know how often that happens these days. Like I don't even know that when was the last time you had a role play that lasted that long, guys?
well, I do, but it's
Like
not
with-
as often as it used to
Like
be.
character, like only you and like maybe 2 other characters for that long. I don't mean like role playing for 5 hours straight. That you can do, like you bounce from different people, but like literally just you and one other person for 4 or 5 hours,
Oh no, I haven't done one-on-one role play for years.
or even
so,
even 2 or
no.
even
But,
2
like,
or 3 others.
I've been on Cial in the Rift role playing fights and all this other
Right.
stuff and building stories for boom 6 hours 2 a.m. What?
Right, and that's
So that still happens, but it doesn't happen in that magical way like it used to.
that's
often
what I
as it
was.
used to.
Yeah, and I don't
It's
know
not
if
like
that's
that a
just.
lot.
It's just that the people have changed, or I've changed, or what.
People
but yeah,
have changed. They're not willing to.
It's a societal
to build
thing, yeah.
Long-term stories. They want something like when we started our storyline with Cial, and with the guy that tracked her down and killed her. People were amazed that I took literally 3 months for Cial.
yeah, they
to
kept
get
trying
better.
to heal you in like a day and a half.
Yeah, they wanted the instant. And no, look, you have healed her, but bones still have to grow, nerves still have to grow. Things happen.
Yeah.
She broke her neck. It's gonna
She had
be
to
a
go through
while.
walking therapy, the whole
Yeah,
deal.
it's gonna be a while. So
Yeah,
chill out.
there was a montage. There was Rocky music playing in the background, but but 3
Exactly.
months still had to go by.
Yeah, and they wanted to go find this guy, and I was very meticulously having her because I figured it would take a while to find,
Mhm.
and I wanted it to take a
Well,
while
and
to find.
because of that, it allowed my character to go to her and tell her, "Quit being a fucking moron. Don't play with your food." You
Yeah,
know? And if you
exactly.
had done that the next day, that wouldn't have happened. You know, I would have been busy.
Or like, we want people to say, well, I'll just go out and find him for you. It'll be fast. No, I
No.
don't want that.
I
I
have noticed
want
that
it to
trend.
take a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
that
and
trend
they
is on the
all want
rise.
to solve it or fix it or boom, it's done. Or, well, I'll just go look into it. I'll find out for you. I have so many people say that, and they just,
And then-
I'm confident that my character is so awesome. They're
and
going
really,
to find
all
out
that
this
is then
information.
asking you, OOC, what do I need to know?
Right, because they want to solve it.
Right.
And
Which-
they want to be the person to solve it.
Yeah. So it's
And I
definitely.
don't want that. I
Yeah.
want it to drag out. I want the story to build and to bring in nuances of different things to get people to contact me and say, well, what if this guy also had a friend who had a friend? Drag it out and change it. And
You wanted to spawn other roleplay arcs.
yeah,
That's the whole
I'm
idea.
building roleplay. I'm not just creating a story. I'm
Yeah.
building roleplay. And I don't think that a lot of people think of that
It
way.
needs to be a 3-part continuation episode, not a 30-minute sitcom.
Right.
That's right.
You have to build role play, and a lot of these people out there, they're building the perfect wedding, or they're building the perfect. I met them and we got married. Now we have kids, and it's all taking place in 3 weeks. And there's
That
no,
long? Oh, wow.
I know.
They don't
I
have
was
staying
made
power
so
that long.
slow.
Let's say.
They
I feel
struck
like
it out
it's
for
been
2 whole months, getting married, getting
ages
pregnant,
for
having the baby for 3 whole months.
Tractively.
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
tell them, dude, slow down because you're blowing through some really good role play that you can.
You're
Yeah.
missing a lot of
Build role
opportunities.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
Sometimes the conversation over a bowl of stew is better RP than the, oh, look, I'm pregnant next week. Oh, look, we had the baby next week. Oh, look, it's dead now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been going on. RRP's
Yeah.
been going on for quite a while.
but when that happens, Trefay, you
Mhm.
get dead baby funeral ham, which is delicious.
Oh, God.
Everyone
Oh
brings
my
you.
gosh.
Everyone
Normal.
brings you a ham.
Stop.
Boy, man.
Yeah, you guys.
You gotta
I
get the afterbirth as well for the proper stew.
Draxilis.
Oh.
Okay, I wasn't gonna go there. It's the fact
Hey,
that
man.
the
Can't stand the heat. Get out
I
of
saw
the
this horrible. It made me actually think you used Trefay. This horrible story.
Oh, excellent.
Of
I'm
this-
flattered, I think.
It made me think of Gormal more than you, but still. This guy had his leg amputated and invited friends over to have the leg in taco meat.
No,
No.
no.
How about no, Scott?
Yeah, leg tacos. He invited people to have
No.
his leg in tacos.
Okay, well, that is definitely from Grob.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wanted
That
to.
is gross.
I had to share that with you. So what's the next one, Jess?
Jazz.
She's probably typing. All right, well, I'll get to the other one. That one made me cough. Dedication takes effort, and most people don't want to push any effort into their role play. They just want instant gratification. See point above.
Which we talked
forgot to
about.
push talk. So I was
There you
talking the whole time, and I couldn't
Anyway.
figure out why you were talking over me.
Yeah,
Oh.
sorry. I figured it was that or
Yeah.
you were typing, so I just took. I had
Yeah.
to take over. All right,
Yeah.
you got the
So-
next one.
We did that one, really. The next one is And I know people are going to be like, "You're so negative." I get people saying that I'm too negative about ERP, so I apologize up front. But I believe that I'm actually being nice.
Don't be a negative Nancy, Jazz.
At least 70% of role players are looking for ERP, MRP, and relationship RP. If their character can't be in a relationship, they quickly lose interest in that character and move on to the next idea. Journaling and reading and writing about a character takes more work and gives nearly no actual ERP, MRP results, so it's not a priority or an interest. And I really do believe this is true, and I actually think it's higher than 70%. I'm being nice.
If you consider the ERP and MRP just to be part of relationship, I would absolutely say it would probably be higher, because the number of role players that are always, I mean, how many people were hitting you up, Sib, for like, do you want to be in a relationship with my character? I mean, you had
because it isn't always about ERP either, but they want their character to be in a relationship, and if their character can't be in a relationship, they lose all interest in that character and they move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I have found that, honestly, just between the one relationship I had started with one character and the relationship fully with Trath, I am more invested in that relationship because it took months.
Yep.
I probably like 6-7 months for them, to actually get to the point where they are right now. The other one, it was like, you want to be in a relationship? I'll try. I'm not, making any promises. I never was invested in it. I had nothing really, like, no reason to really want to go
because
into
it was
it.
a lot of times it just came. It wasn't like organic, like with you and Straffe. You guys did talk about it at one point, but it was after you guys realized, like, oh shit, there could be a thing here. It wasn't. A lot of it was the asking upfront OOC, like, hey, you want to be in a relationship and work towards that? Like, no, not really.
No, I would rather it be organic. Like you said, organic RP is the most fun and entertaining and refreshing, satisfying RP you can have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree with that. And that's what I mean by random a lot of times is organic. I want things to develop on their own. I want them to come apart because they don't get along, or I want them to come together because there's a spark there that I didn't actually foresee, that now that they're interacting, I see. That was one of the things that was amusing to me, is that Ashen's character Tarvala and my character Zasher was just completely had a crush on her. It was hilarious because I didn't intend for that to happen. It just kind of did. And it was funny because every time I rolled about how he looked at Tarvala, I'd say, okay, low is going to mean that he's really taken with her. High means he could care less. And I would change it around. And every time it was, he can't take his eyes off her. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, and she wouldn't give him the time of day.
Yeah, because he was just like beating his up because he just thought she was delicious. So it was really funny that happened that way.
Yeah. And then I thought it was a lot of fun because she, if they had continued on, there's no telling. It might have been something that happened. He may have actually worn her down eventually, but things, they moved on from that and all that stuff. So, but as it was happening, it was very enjoyable and very funny, and it made for good role play.
It did, because she was clueless elements. And he was tripping over himself trying to look at her eyes, look at her eyes. Because he was going to look at her assets instead of her eyes. He was running really hard.
What a fetcher.
Her assets.
Her assets.
Her assets.
Huge.
Lots of assets.
And even his buddy Kizdian said,
land.
hey, she's got huge tracts of land. She don't care, bro. You are not going to get up that tree. Oh, yes, I am. No, you're not.
They would have these completely wrong conversations about Tarvala. It was hilarious.
Yeah, you're not getting.
He's like, hey, I'm like any other Dunmer. I would love to charge up that loading ramp, but it ain't gonna happen. First of all, she'll court-martial you if you're trying to flirt with her. Then she'll label you a heretic. That's if you're lucky.
Yeah. Nah, she just beat the shit out of you in front of everybody. That's just what she does.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that too.
So, all right, what you got next?
He would just watch and sigh. Yeah. Okay. Next.
Next.
Getting
next.
to know
Number next.
characters outside their own realm of interest doesn't interest people seeking instant gratification in relationship RP, with or without ERP, MRP. They want to log in and get attention. Reading about other characters, deepening understandings and interpersonal relationships within non-sexually interesting characters is simply beyond anything they are interested in doing. This is a sad truth, in my opinion, about most RPers out there. They're young, they're new, and really, when they go to a bar, they don't care whether or not your grandma died. They just want to get, under
Right.
your underwear. So there's a lot of that comes from being young, and a lot of that comes from not having as much time to play. And so they just want to get in and get out and have some fun, and that's it. But the cost of that is not having intricate, intimate RP with people that you're not sexually interested in.
Right. Yeah.
Because that actually is going to be far more common and builds RP like no other.
I agree.
Yeah, and and I always find too. There's been times. And no, I know it's going to sound like I'm virtue signaling, but I've stated multiple times I'm just not really interested in ERP and things like that. It's not my thing. But there's been a lot of times where I start role playing with somebody who is actually a woman, or they're playing a woman or whatever, and there's certain things they say and do. I can tell they're waiting. They're just waiting for me to start hitting on them or make some sort of comment. It's a weird feeling, because they'll make offhanded comments of, they'll do that protective girl thing where they're like, oh, yeah, they're waving their hand in front of their face to show the ring, like, oh yes, look at my boyfriend, or this or that. They'll make those offhanded comments. I'm like, oh, good to know. I mean, hope he's a good-looking chap, but I don't give it. But there's been it doesn't happen often, but there are times where I feel like I'm like, son of a bitch, they're waiting for me to hit on them, aren't they? Yep, that's there. Just to throw out of my lady, and there's times you've got to reassure them, like, listen, I'm here to role play and have fun. I don't give a shit what you're gonna, I'm not looking for a relationship. If I wanted a relationship, I don't know, I'd go to one of the ads on the side of the Google. It says there's many single women that want to talk to me in my area. I don't need you. There are hot singles nearby. According to this, there's one only a mile and a half away. This ad knows where I'm at. How could it be wrong?
My goodness.
So I have noticed there is kind of, for someone like me, or I know Strafe's, you have done stuff like that, but you don't go, you're not the milady kind of a guy.
No.
So have you ever noticed that, like, when you start meeting someone new, you're like, I think they're waiting for me to totally hit on them and try to get in their pants. You ever gotten that impression?
There's that slight vibe sometimes, and then sometimes I just won't do it on purpose. It's like, what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
And then the problem is that's out of the norm, and suddenly you're off the island for good.
Yeah,
So
well, and
it
that's
can backfire in your face.
That's the alternative. That's what I thought with Jazz when we first met, and she totally tried to pick my character up. I was
Yeah.
when I rebuffed her, I was like,
Yeah, I did.
well, never going to see her again. You
Yeah.
know,
And
but
we did.
turned out to be wrong.
Because a lot of people that I role played with had no interest in Baka sexually. It was just fun to interact, like Shard and other
Yeah.
people that were goody that interacted with Baka. Like Shard knew that Baka was as evil as they come. I mean, she had Baka figured out from the get-go, and she wasn't bothered by that, which is why they were friends.
Yeah.
Part of her was just like, do you even see yourself? And the other half was like, damn, girl.
Mhm.
So they became friends, and I enjoyed that. And now, like, I have people who think that all Cial is that she flirts with people, but a lot of the time she's doing that to see what they'll do.
Yeah.
She's like, when she flirted with Trath,
Oh yeah.
she wanted to see what he'd do. If he would hit her on her back, even though he was her boss and her mentor, or would he shut her down? And he shut her down, and she was like, you passed, and she left.
And this was after Farrah had died. He wasn't even chasing Vola yet.
Yeah.
And
was
he was
just-
teaching her. He dropped by the Earth Tier Cavern for a reading lesson. It was this, and this. And suddenly, Cial strips naked and stands above. I was like, what are you going to do now, Professor? He's like, that is not appropriate. You need to go put some clothes on.
It was
Oh,
fantastic.
well, that's new.
Shame on you. Was it?
Yeah.
Dishonor
and
on
she
you.
grinned
Dishonor
from
on
cow.
your cow.
ear. It was just like, you pass.
Dishonor your whole family.
Yeah, and it was I enjoy stuff like that. And like one of the guys that was flirting with that she was flirting with, another person had asked me to kill that person, and had sent me a letter saying from they had both talked to me, and on a different on Kia. They didn't know it would be Sia, and they wanted her to try to kill this guy, but only to attempt or put him in a position where she could, not to actually do it, because this guy was making a point that this guy was not careful. So she did it. And when it was over and it's done, and she was like, what are you going to do? And instead of taking the offer, because they were off in the middle of nowhere, he was like, I'm a married man. And I can't do this.
You're very nice, but no.
Yeah. And she was like, really? She was, what? Oh, well then I guess I won't kill you then. Although I was supposed to.
No, you go home now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an absolutely wonderful RP, and I'm still friends with him. We still see each other in the bar from time to time, and he always waves, and I've waved at his girlfriend, and it's all very cool. But that was a role play that just kind of chanced and happened upon, and I was glad to do it, and it was fun. That kind of stuff is what makes RP so much fun.
Yes, and then and it's
true.
It's an unfortunate rarity in a lot of people, and it is out there. You can find it. The problem is you've got to go through. You've got to go through
a whole lot of ugly role play to find the good ones.
The doldrums,
and it's just up to you to decide if it's worth it or not. So what's the next part you got here? Make sure you push the button too.
Oh yeah. Hold on. You're so smart. Okay. People are flat out afraid of mixing or taking what they read into RP, and thus they shy away from the whole concept of reading on forums. And I've had people tell me that. I don't want to read it because what if I make a mistake? And it doesn't matter how many times. They're really afraid of doing that. And I tell them it's a lot harder to do than you think. And if it happens and you realize that you've done it, you just say, oh, I screwed up. And, anybody with any decency isn't going to be mad about it. I certainly wouldn't be.
No.
Or like one time I read something in Strayface Journal, and when we were role playing, my character knew something that my character couldn't have known, but it was from reading his journal, and I didn't even. There's so much shit between Vodka and Rangots.
They can't.
Oh God!
In years of role play, that it's going to happen. He was like, "Honey, that was in my journal. That didn't actually happen."
And you're like, "Oh, never mind. Retcon."
Oh, my bad. We'll have to back that up, and we did. And we backed up a couple paragraphs, and we fixed it, and we just moved on. Nobody got mad. No feelings were hurt. So. Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah,
don't
really
stay away.
But it's jazz, and I've known jazz forever. I'm like, I ain't worried about jazz. Whatever.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I was mad at myself because I hate making that kind of
right.
mistake.
Well, and it is actually a lot harder to do than you think. Like something I've realized playing Drixilus, because he is what he is and very observant. So it would be very easy to take all the OOC knowledge I have, but while I do still have that knowledge, and it probably does help me make the connections, so that the character can be far smarter than I am. I don't make those connections unless, in my own beautiful mind way and the way I think, you guys have said something would make me be able to connect those things. The figuring out Trithalis had a brother, for example, there were a few clues. Like, obviously I know that, but my guy going in, he didn't know any of this. He didn't know anybody. But there was a comment that Volley had made where it's him. I know it was him. He's behind all of this. And that
was all the stuff said between her and Trat.
Right. And he just happened to be there, and he played, he quickly played it down. And then, so as soon as he then found her brother Foz and said, "Oh, the master." And he was like, "Well, what's your master look like?" And he described Trithalis. He's like, so either Trithalis is evil, or he's got some sort of relative or somebody's going around impersonating him. So it was pretty clear that there was
he's totally evil,
right? That either he was Jekyll and Hyde, or there was a dark a brother or relative out there that looked close enough that would just happen to look exactly the same. So there were those cues, and the other way to do that is I came up with like three different possibilities. It wasn't the instant like, oh well, clearly he has an evil twin brother. It was he's got either he's he's playing both sides against the middle, and he's betraying he almost got his wife killed. Seemed very unlikely. Or, someone was impersonating with illusion magic, or it's some sort of actual blood relative. Those were his three theories, and, that's how you came about that. It really wasn't that hard to come up with. You just have to pay attention.
You're just deducing what you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it was like I said, people will often, if you wait, people, and especially in roleplay, they'll give you the clues, and, if you're afraid of OOC mixing, really, you don't have to wait too long before you'll be like, well, there's a viable in-character reason to come up with that conclusion. You really can. It's not too bad. So if people are afraid of that, don't worry. You're missing out on something good.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're paying half a bit of attention, and you'll be like, oh, I read that in the journal most of the time.
Well, I think a lot of times people are like tabbed out to either doing other things, and they miss a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And though they're not paying attention anyway, which is why they're always confused.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Or they're in voice all the time.
The voice one, yeah. I think that gets a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's far more distracting to people than they believe.
I agree. I think so too.
Last
reason, one of the last reasons that people don't use web pages is many people are, and I say this believe it or not, because I've had people tell me, what? Because most of us who use forums and are familiar with forums are like, they're easy.
Or were they playing
But
on computers and video games all day long?
Right. I have been playing on computers and video games since I was 15 years old in one form or another. To me, computers are the same as clipping my nails with a nail clipper. It's part of my life. So
Only
I
it
have a
doesn't get
hard
stuck
time
in your keyboard.
understanding. Yes. I have people who tell me that web pages are confusing and they don't like forums because they don't understand them. And my mind goes blink, blink. What? How old are you? Because they're like 25, 30 years old. And I'm like, but you've had computers longer than I have. How do you not know how to use a forum? So I had a very unique existence, and it's hard for me to grasp why somebody wouldn't know what a forum is. But people are very intimidated by forums, and that's why I've tried to make the forum as I've gotten older. You remember what our old forums were like?
Clusterfuck.
They were hard to navigate, even for anybody who could.
Yeah.
I've gotten to where I've tried to make it as simple as possible to navigate, so it doesn't overwhelm people.
Yeah, your old ones made the beautiful mind look like, Jack and Jill. It's like, yeah, sure. It's like reading Dr. Seuss was like a beautiful mind compared to the way you used to do forums. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were, and I wanted to get everything covered. So I wanted to get everything on there, and I didn't always organize it. It made sense to me, but not to most people. So
yeah,
I've learned how to streamline things.
Well, I'm glad
better.
it made sense to you, Russell Crowe, because nobody else got it.
I was about to say.
But you've definitely gotten better and more succinct. Of course, it's also a lot easier now because people hardly use them.
So, also, I took
Going to the topic.
programming, and I learned web page design, and I think taking those classes helped me understand streamlining for linear people. I'm not a linear person, so it's very hard for me to think like a linear person who goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I go A, B, tab over to here, over here, this little notation here. Okay,
Shiny.
great. Now go over here. Yeah, so I do not think in a linear way, but it is the way most people think, and I come off as chaos for that reason, in my opinion. And my webpage design, the first webpage that I made, I showed to my webpage design teacher, and he says, "This hurts me."
So when he came out of the stroke,
yeah, he saw my forum, my original forum that I had made, and he said, in his best ways, he goes, "This hurts me so much."
it burns us. It burns us.
And so he helped me a lot after class because I have forum interest. And nobody else in the class, by the way, was interested in forums but me. I was the only person. So
Slam that desk harder, Jazz.
We'll just have the old broad and teach you.
Yeah. So I ended up teaching a subclass on forums after I graduated that class. So that was cool because I understand forums now. But I think most people are overwhelmed.
It's an interesting concept to think that there's people out there that, because there's far more complicated websites out. I mean, if you go to a government website, I understand your frustration. Those things are awful.
No kidding.
they're definitely done by the lowest bidder, but the
we
forums
also,
are
a
fairly
lot of us
succinct.
role players that are older, we were in MUDs, we were in forum role play. Most of these kids have never seen that. They
We
have no idea.
survived guild launch. Don't get on to me. You don't know what I've been
Guild
through.
Oh, guild launch was such a nightmare to code.
We did MySpace. Yeah, you don't have anything on me, Facebook. Mine had the spinny little fire gifts.
Spinny little fire gifts. There
Yeah.
you go.
So, all right. So, what's the last one you got on here? Push to talk.
Yes. I hate that you know that I did that. It's really annoying. Anyway,
Love it.
the
Rock
age
on,
group
bro.
of 15 to 40 is the largest group to show long-term signs of illiteracy, which is similar to illiteracy, which is not being able to read, but is the disinterest or unwillingness to read anything at all. And this is actually, even though it is at the bottom, it is a very important one to remember because this was one thing when we were talking, when I was in my writing class and in my web design class, was that illiteracy is on the rise in every organized country in the world. It's not just America.
No.
Although in America it's much higher than it is in any other country. But I think Japan and China are catching up to us. So
it's the Twitter.
It's Twitter. It's the Twitter generation.
Yeah.
And so illiteracy is on the rise, and people don't want to read. They watch videos. You know how hard it is for me to find something to tell me how to do something that isn't a goddamn video?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Drives me insane because I can't watch a video and learn anything.
See, I'm actually very good with both, but I have noticed,
Same here.
I'm looking up something for Super Smash Brothers, and it's a simple thing of like, just tell me where this thing is, or where do I go to get this character, and it's like, it's first thing is like 15 videos. Where do you find Cloud in Super Smash Brothers Ultimate? Click here, and it's like a 45-minute video. It's like, okay, it's not that complicated.
Just freaking tell me.
Just show me the spot on the map, jackass.
Yeah, and so
That's right.
Which, by the way, I have them
of
unlocked.
that generation. It drives me crazy because I can't learn that way. I'm physically, I'm that person that has to audio tape the whole lecture because I can't take notes and listen at the same time. I have, turns out, an actual learning disorder. I passed on to my children. They're so happy. So yeah, it has a name. But
We call it
I
jazz.
also can't. I also can't listen to a video and learn anything because you know what I'm doing? I'm pausing it and writing it down and then push play,
yeah,
and then pause, write down, push play. So I'm actually making my step-by-step instructions off the freaking video, which somebody could just do for me, be really nice, and stop with all the videos because they drive me crazy.
Why does it gotta be about you, Jazz?
Because it is, okay? It just drives me crazy. I hate this video generation. My kid's like, Mom, just watch a video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my other boy, the older boy, is the one that has the same thing I have. And he's just like, I feel you, Mom.
Yeah.
I said, somehow that doesn't help. Stop talking.
Thanks for following us, Grandma Gothy.
Woohoo! Go, Grandma Gothy.
Yay!
Appreciate it. But yeah, no, it's I mean, I know in high school, man, I hated reading. I could read. I knew how to read. I knew of reading. I did not read. I did not write. I did not do things in an educational capacity.
That was work stuff, bro.
Yeah, and it's nowadays. Yeah, it was work. Now and I'm the opposite. How do you do? I'm curious. Now you got me curious, Jess, because we've got about 500 books in our Audible library, which not a sponsor of the show, but Audible is awesome. Definitely worth it. And I don't think you're not coming through for some reason, Sib.
I don't know why.
Oh, I don't think you were close
I
enough.
just said, mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you were being too soft. But how do you do with audiobooks, Jess?
Well, I can listen to them, but I don't retain much of what they say.
Okay.
I mean, well, actually, that's not true.
I was gonna say, is it just because is it different learning, like you're saying, like your college crap, and learning it from that, as versus listening to the Dark Tower series, where it's different retention.
I had a teacher that we did Islamic history, art history, which by the way was fascinating. And I would go to his class and I would sit in his class, and I'd never taken it before, so I didn't know anything about him. And I asked him if I could audio tape his class, and I explained about my learning disability, and he was like, well, sure, but you really don't need to. I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, okay. So I sat there for the first quarter.
I just hear Jazz, yes, I do. Oh, Lord, yes, tape it all day.
Yeah, he's this little guy. He was really cute. And he was like older than me, one of the few teachers that was actually older than me. So he was like, sure, honey, whatever makes you happy. So I didn't bristle at being called honey because I'm of that age group that we're used to it.
You got a supervisor that does
Obviously,
that too.
you just bristled, though.
No, because people have been telling me to stop let people do that. And I'm like, what? Why? I don't care. Anyway,
go ahead. I'm just trolling.
So for like the first it was like 3.5 weeks. And then we had our first test. And 2 days before the test, he hands us the outline of everything he'd covered. Literally. In outline form. And I'm looking at it. I have been taking notes diligently every night for 2 hours on this class, because if you've ever taken an art history class, there's a lot of information in those classes.
Mind-numbingly boring, right?
Yeah, it's not boring, but it is incredibly detailed to me. I love art history.
It's a lot of stuff to remember. That's the annoying part of it.
And all these pictures and letters and dates, right? And then he says, you may bring in one, not the little note cards, but the big note cards, the bigger ones, you know? You can bring one of those in, written on both sides of the paper, with anything you want on it. And that's it. And I was like, are you kidding me? I can bring the answers to the test?
It's
did he mess up?
I aced that motherfucking class.
It's college. Of course you can get away with it.
I was amazed. It was hard. His questions were hard, and you did have to know your shit. And of course, the process of writing in 2mm handwriting. Yeah. And I feel bad for people who can't cursive, by the way, because that would be really hard to print everything.
It's sad that they don't. But
I cursived that whole thing, and this girl looked at it, and she goes, "How can you read this?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She says, "It's just gobbledygook." I said, "No, it's writing."
The lead artist at work sees me writing cursive like notes during meetings and like when I'm doing tasks. He's like, "Dude, you're writing cursive." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, I don't even do it anymore. I don't even know if I know how.
Well,
he's not hard, bro.
He looks at you like you're like some sort of, dear Margaret, the wind and the rain every time it falls makes me think of you during this long, arduous meeting. I, unfortunately, will not be able to see you for many, many months, as I am going to be forced to artistically and virtually draw a Humvee for future games.
I've actually built a Humvee. Anyway,
that's where I got that one from. But yeah, it is. I've actually heard some sad, scary theories on the not teaching cursive and things like that. And
I taught all my boys cursive.
I think some of it's in the conspiracy realm, but at the same time, even if that's not the end goal or some, like that's how the Illuminati wants it to happen, it's still going to end up being in the same result of you're not going to be able to read things from the founding fathers in their own words, or old British poets from across the sea, or things like that. Because
it's awesome
know how to read it.
But anyway, I aced that class, and then I had another class that she wouldn't let us write down anything. The no-note cards, you had to memorize everything, and I spent hours redoing everything that she said. Yeah. But like but the point of this was, because after I knew I could do that, I just sat in his class and listened and didn't write anything down. And I learned something. That was one of my first classes that I took when I went back to school. And I learned that I actually learned more by not worrying about note-taking. By just paying attention to everything that was being said. And I started doing that in all my classes, and I ended up on a full ride by the time I graduated, and I graduated with honors.
Yeah.
Because I finally figured out what I needed to do to retain the information. So maybe an audiobook would be fine for me.
Yeah. You should try. They're great. They're great too, especially with you driving around. But
yeah.
I love them just because I can, while I'm at work, listen to anything and everything. And I listen to podcasts, audiobooks.
Podcasts especially. Like this one is a great one to listen to.
I listen to us at work. And it's hilarious. Makes the day go away.
Yeah. So, all right. So we have a quick thing before we run down here. Ways to try and help encourage website view and journal story writing on the site.
Well, one of the things that I started doing, because threatening didn't work,
And she
Was.
tried.
We tried, but it doesn't work. I said, you know what? I don't care. Don't come. It's fine. We'll just do this without you.
Wow.
And people get curious because they hear it's passive aggressive. It's ridiculous, but it works.
When a woman
And
says
it gets
fine,
people-
man, you know what that means.
It's not fine. It's
So
not
we
fine.
offer rewards. We used to offer a reward. You got a certain number of points, which you could turn in for things that you could buy from the guild for posting profiles and journals. And we also had incentives. Unfortunately, our officers couldn't do that because they had to come to the website. But
Thanks.
Jazz, I came all the time.
how do you live with him?
It's a challenge.
No, I'm just saying I visited that website all the time. I was always there.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I challenge myself every day.
I know. I go to the website even now, every single day.
I came there sometimes multiple times a day.
He did.
You guys are dirty.
I don't know what you guys are. I don't understand. I'm just saying I went to the website all the time.
I'm sorry. I'm being awful.
I don't know what you're. Are you reading more into this than I'm inferring? I mean, all right, whatever.
Anyway, so talking about the site, talking about using the site, saying I have a profile, or I wrote in my journal and it was really cool because I got to develop something with Strafe. And you talk to people about that, they're like, we have a site? Yeah, it's in the guild message, and it's in
that thing
right
that
there.
pops on your screen every time you log in. Yeah,
Every single time you log in.
that poor desk.
Dang, man.
I feel like we need to call like DHS or so. Oh wait, they're closed down. Never
When
mind.
they said that exact same quote in Silver Circle days, I would say you are instantly in trouble, and here comes the Jazz Steamroller.
Yeah. So, all right. What's I actually like, because unfortunately, a lot of those first two they don't really work today because they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
That's not going
they
to
really don't.
do it. So the last one, however,
But the last part does work because it makes them curious and they want to come see. So, by the way, free plug, Shadows and Dreams at engine.com. Come see us. Learn.
It's a trap. Don't do it.
It's not a trap.
All of the
Totally a
profiles
trap.
are posted. So if somebody does a search for one of your characters and you have a profile on our site, it will pop in Google. So people can get to the site even if they're not part of Engine, and they can read profiles. So that gets a lot of people to come, if for nothing else, just to put a profile up of their character that they want people to see. So that is probably the main reason people use our site.
I don't think Trath has a profile on that site.
I know Drax
I am
Hillis
aware.
does it. I know Drax does it, but I haven't made one.
This
for
is
him,
an outstanding troll, mind you.
So. Mhm.
Yes, it is. I know it is. You are bad. You know that, right? You are bad.
Hey,
You're just bad people.
you're this bad. Why do you want to be good? Listen,
Wow. It
All you can
feels
do it for
so
Christmas.
good to be so bad.
I'm too good to have that stupid profile. Dead silence. I love it.
She probably forgot to put push to talk.
This is true. I forgot about that one.
I hate you. I also hate push to talk with a passion. I'm never using it again.
Welcome to my old bonds. I don't miss it.
So that kind of covers it for everything that we had here. The end thing is, if you're not doing stories and journals and things like that, and you never have, give it a shot. I mean, don't. And actually, I guess we should cover one other thing that we didn't put on here. Don't be that self-conscious. I know a lot of people, Sib, especially his most recent, get super. They get really, really nervous about quote unquote publishing anything online. They feel like it's not good enough. They don't feel like they're up to stuff. They read people that have been doing it for, years and years and years, and like, well, mine's not nearly as good as that. Well, you're a shitty judge of your own work, so don't go off of what you think it is.
Yeah.
Your stuff is really good, by the way, Sebs. Stop
Thank
doing
you.
that.
Yeah, it's adequate.
Well,
It's definitely adequate.
I just get really nervous, and people are really supportive.
Mhm.
I will say, ever since I started writing, I have had nothing but good support.
Yeah, and are there those
everybody.
people that are going to say something shitty? It does happen now and then, but especially in role play, it is actually, when it comes to people that write journals and things like that, it is extremely rare, especially if you post it on like community hub forums. Those places, they if somebody does something like that, they get an earful and they get in a lot of trouble for things like that.
They do.
Yeah.
Most people are, especially at the community sites, they're very, very supportive because there's people that, man, they're at work, all day long, and they read those things. They'll read them and read them and read them, and they read everything that comes on there. It's a great place, and it's also a place where if you are trying to get better and you actually do want to critique. Now, remember, if you ask for a critique, make sure you are ready to be critiqued because there are some people out there that are really good at that stuff, and they're not going to be negative or mean about it, but they will do what what someone critiquing and they'll do what an editor would do, and it's point out every minor mistake, which is what that's supposed to be for. That's what you're asking for.
I mean, if somebody asks me for critique, I ask them at least 3 times. Are you sure?
Yeah,
because I will be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I actually had that happen with somebody who was like, I want to show you my book and I want you to tell me what you think. Are you sure about that? Are you really sure about that? Are you really? Quit asking me. Okay. So I read it and I was honest. And she was really pissed at me for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And I felt bad. But she needed to know that she was just...
Yeah. And again,
she felt bad. She keeps laughing maniacally. I felt horrible.
I did feel bad, and she's not bad. That was
trolling.
It just needs improvement. Yeah. Nobody comes...
I agree.
She just didn't connect her facts well, and she was trying to combine too much at once.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need to stick with what you know. And I told her that the most important thing when you're writing about something is to write what you know.
Yeah, like one of the Mark Tufa, who I've mentioned on here, that does Zombie Fallout. He's done, I don't know, probably almost 24 books by now. He's very good at what he does. But one of the things that he does on his on Facebook is he'll have the unfair contest of the day, and he'll give things out like little Zombie Fallout bracelets and things like that. But he also has done things where he'll send people a edited page of one of the books, like that they printed out and things like that, and then the editor scribbled all over it. Now this guy's done dozens and dozens of books and offshoots and writes all the time. Every page I've ever seen when a fan gets one of these is completely scribbled over in red ink by the editor, and he's a really good writer. But that's what editors are for. Right. They've got to tear your book apart so that it looks and it exactly. Even I could guarantee you people like Stephen King, J.K. Rowling, all those guys, when they get their stuff back, it's scribbled in red ink because editors may not be the most creative people because are able to write like those writers do. But they know what they're doing and how to make things, It's like how George Lucas was a fantastic idea guy. Made Star Wars. Terrible fucking writer. Can't write dialogue to save his life. Watch the first 3 episodes. The prequels. It's very apparent.
Just look at Anakin trying to talk to Padme.
Right.
Are you an angel?
That was when he's a kid. It didn't get any better.
Yeah, it was, and I handed a book of mine to a friend of my teacher's because she recommended it. And I told him, I want you to read this and I want your honest opinion. And he's like, honey, you don't want my honest opinion. And I said, no, I really do. I am prepared for horrible things, but I need to know if I'm following some
And she hasn't
dream.
written since.
No. And, he came, it was covered in red ink.
Mm-hmm.
He said, before, you need to understand, I wrote 2 colors of ink. There's red ink, and then there's purple ink. Purple ink is when I was correcting dialogue because I'm not really sure if you wanted me to correct dialogue. Some people do, some people don't. I didn't as it was.
Right.
But they had very colorful pages. But he was hard on me. And you know what? If he had never done that, I don't think I ever would have known.
You wouldn't have improved where all your little mistakes are at.
And I improved 300% since I gave him my manuscript. But the most important thing that he told me was, which is what I told this girl who was so hurt by what I said, you are not bad at this.
Yeah.
This is a good story. It has good imagery. You're very good at imagery. You need to stick with that. Stop trying to do shit you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Focus on the things you do.
Yeah.
I told her that. He told me that. He said, stop doing this. Get it out of Earth. Because, and the thing was, is I didn't listen to him on that when I did try to get it published, and it was a good manuscript by that point. The only thing that killed me was because they didn't feel that the story belonged on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what this man told me 6 years before. And I beat my head on the wall because I should have listened to him. And now I'm remaking a world to insert into this book and rewriting it for this new world. I would have saved myself 10 years of agony if I just would have listened to him in the first place.
Right. Yeah. So there you
Look what you did, Jazz.
But, but that's the thing, and if you're going to, don't ask for a critique until you're ready. Because they can be brutal, brutally honest, not like, you should give up, that kind of thing. But
no, you don't want to be that guy.
Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to try it. You don't know. You might surprise yourself, and you might be. There is a sense of accomplishment every time you hit that post button. Like, hey, I wrote. Especially these days. One other real quick tip. Don't write it actually on the forum, because if somebody hits a button, or you've been typing on it too long, and then you hit post and there's an error on the website, you've lost it all. Do it on Google Docs, Microsoft Word, anywhere else, and then copy and paste it.
Do it in text. Do it in Notepad. It does not matter. Do not
write on that fucking forum.
Forums.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I wasted so much time.
If it's over a paragraph, sure, go ahead. You'll probably be done, before you know it. But if it's a story, or even a page, I've just like you guys. I don't know how many pages, probably hundreds of pages I've lost before I got that through my thick fucking skull.
Yeah, me too.
But so try journals, try stories. Don't be afraid. Try, challenge yourself. It's all right. You might.
It is a lot of fun. It's
you really might surprise yourself. So, all right. Well, we've gone a little, not too long because we started a little late, but that's all right. So, appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully that was a good one. Remember, if you've
guys.
got any ideas, I think next week we're gonna have one from a listener too. Show topic. Excuse me, got the hiccups right there at the end. So if you got any of those, you can contact us at rpmradio@gmail.com if you want to do that. Really the easiest way is over at Discord, rpmradio.com/Discord. Join our Discord server. You'll see us all at the hosts right there at the top. So if you want to send it to us on an individual basis, or you want to just tag everybody in the Discord, that's perfectly cool and acceptable. Twitter, we're over at Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook, all those kinds of places. Just join us, help us follow around there. The Twitter one, for sure, it always lets you know when the podcast goes up, because they are connected. So the minute I click that publish button, Twitter will let you know that the podcast is up. Although it may take, at least on Podbean, it may take a while to cycle over to Apple, because they are so fast and so good. But, all right, well, with that, remember, everybody, to tune in next time when we go over halflings and why the majority of them are, in fact, illiterate. They cannot read. It is very sad. One of the tragedies of Lord of the Rings. So, appreciate everybody. I, of course, am one of your hosts, and I want to thank my crew, Jazz, Sib, and Strafay. Hopefully Uni will be with us next week. She just had she's a little under the weather, so we hope her and Rahana are both starting to feel better. Prayers and good, happy, smiley thoughts towards both of them. So with that, join us next time on RPM Radio, and until then, play on and keep the role play going. Good night, everybody. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his video game rock covers and original music.